Pedro Lopez, known as the Monster of the Andes, is a prolific Colombian serial killer, pedophile, ephebophile, hebephile, and serial child rapist who confessed to raping and strangling over 350 young girls across Colombia, Peru, and Ecuador. Those are fun to say. Between 1969 and 2002. That's unfathomable. What's even worse is how the laws of these countries, how their criminal justice systems fail when it comes to addressing the crimes of serial killers. Because of it, Pedro Lopez is presumed to be at large today. Stay tuned to hear how little Pedro's truly awful upbringing leads him to becoming the second most prolific serial killer in the world. Hi there, my name is Misha. Welcome to All Things True Crime, or welcome back if you're a regular. If you enjoy this video, please like it and subscribe to my channel so you won't miss my next video. The subscribe button is right below the video, and then ding the bell, that way you won't miss my next video. That's All Things True Crime. The year is 1948. The place? Santa Isabel, Colombia. Benilda Lopez has just given birth to her 7th child. Her life has been incredibly difficult. Supporting herself as a prostitute has taken its toll, but, somebody's got to pay the bills, right? This child's father is a married man and a member of Colombia's right-wing party, murdered before the child was even born. A man having an affair with a prostitute, not that uncommon in the time. Shot and killed in a grocery store just months before the child was born, his death coincided with the start of the Colombian Civil War known as La Violencia. The child's name? Pedro Lopez. Born in 1948, he is the 7th of what would become 13 children. His mother Benilda was cold, abusive, and allowed her children to watch her often violent acts of prostitution. Ugh. Something Pedro has said had extremely disturbing effects on him. No joke. No kidding. In 1957, at the young, impressionable age of 8, already showing signs of a disturbed mind, his mom catches him fondling his younger sister and subsequently kicks him out of the house, just gives him the boot. According to Lopez, she was a very cruel and abusive woman. There are some accounts that underneath the abused and disturbed mind was a very nice and sweet kid who dreamed of one day becoming a school teacher. After this incident with his sister, he wanders his way to the capital of Colombia, which is Bogota. It isn't long, though, before a strange man targets him, promising a warm meal and a cozy bed. This man takes him to a warehouse, where he repeatedly rapes him instead. Yikes. This hugely traumatic event prompts him to take the opportunity to join a child street gang, comprised of a bunch of other runaways. He does this for protection, but often still has to fight daily for food and a place to lay his head. One day, one of the runaways shares his stash of something called bazuco with Pedro. Bazuco is a drug derived from cocaine. Naturally then, this ends up changing things for the worse for Pedro. Fast forward 4 years or so, and a preteen Pedro is taken in by a U.S. immigrant family. They enroll him in a school for orphans, where he excels. After settling in for around 2 years, things take a hard turn for the worse, though, when a male teacher molests him. At least that's what Pedro claims happened, and he runs away. Fast forward another 6 years, and he's making ends meet by stealing cars for local chop shops. This is until he gets busted in 1969 for a car theft in Bogota. He gets 7 years in prison for this crime. A few days after his sentence begins, he is brutally gang raped, an event that no doubtedly deeply traumatizes him. While he is recovering, he vows revenge, crafting a shiv and promising himself that he will hunt down and slaughter each of the prisoners involved in his rape. Some accounts claim he shivved them all, while other accounts claim he chose to strangle the ringleader of the rapists in order to slow down his demise, longing to watch the life drain from his eyes. From this point onward, he has the respect of all other inmates and is never bothered again. Interestingly enough, the Colombian Justice Department considers it self-defense, him murdering all of these prisoners, and they add only another 2 years to his sentence. Once he is released in 1978, he doesn't really ever settle down. Instead, he becomes a drifter and begins abducting, raping, and murdering young girls. He claims an average of 3 victims a week. Jeez. He once said, quote, "My mother threw me out when I was 8, and I was taken in by a man who raped me over and over again. I decided then to do the same to as many young girls as possible." End quote. So he has 2 distinct signatures. First one is he buries 3 to 4 victims in the same shallow grave. And the second is that he props them up and pretends to have tea parties with their bodies post-mortem. He stages them, poses them. So he talks to the girls, because that's normal. And the longer they don't talk back, since they're dead, the more bored he gets, which is not good. Once he gets bored enough, he goes out and targets more girls. His modus operandi is strangulation. He did one prison interview, and he was very candid about his process. He told the interviewer that it typically took the girls 5 to 15 minutes to die. He said, quote, "I was very considerate. I would spend a long time with them, making sure they were dead. I would use a mirror to check whether they were still breathing." What? A mirror? He's crazy. So, to make sure they're dead, or if he's unsure, he goes on to say that he slits their wrists and or their throats to see if blood is still flowing. If they're still alive, he finishes them off. Wait a second, I thought he used a mirror. Commenting on this, he says, quote, "Sometimes I have to kill them all over again. They never screamed because they didn't expect anything would happen. They were so innocent." Dirtbag. Some of the victims are strangled so intensely that their eyes pop out of their sockets. Others die with their eyes frozen wide open in horror. After committing these atrocities for the better part of a year, he has racked up nearly 100 victims when he is attempting to abduct a 9-year-old child from an Indian tribe in Peru. Quick side note, many of his victims came from Indian tribes, as he claimed they were easier targets, more vulnerable. He's caught this time, though, and is tied up, tortured, beaten, and then buried up to his neck by the tribesmen. Good. Killing. Story has it they were planning on pouring some sort of sweet syrup on his head to attract ants that would then eat him alive. Apparently, he is saved by a Christian missionary who convinces the tribesmen to let her turn him in to the authorities. They agree, with reservations though, and then she ends up not following through. Instead, she drives him to the Colombian border and then drops him off, sets him free. After this, he begins traveling through Colombia, and Ecuador, so fun to say, abducting and murdering young girls all along the way. Young girls are disappearing so rapidly at this point that local authorities think prostitution and slavery rings are responsible for the missing children. That means he's rivaling cartels with how much and how quickly he's taking girls. He is quoted as saying that he prefers Ecuadorian girls because, quote, "Ecuadorian girls are nicer, more innocent." I want to rip this guy's face off. So he's finally busted in 1979, thank God. A flash flood near Ambato uncovers 4 bodies of missing young girls. Some days later, he fails an attempted abduction of a 12-year-old girl. The mother and other women gang up on him until a cop rescues him. He proceeds to claim that he is innocent and a good person with a clean heart. Who says that? After a few failed interrogations, the police captain decides to act as the good cop and is nice to him. He eventually tells him that he can find a body near a cabin outside of town. At this point, the captain's curious and he just point blank asks Pedro how many girls he's killed. He says, quote, "Over 200 in Ecuador, some 10s in Peru, and many more in Colombia." What? Weird also for a murderer to be so open. It's been said that the authorities believe the only reason he confesses is due to a second flash flood, that uncovers over 100 bodies. But before he confesses to the police captain, he confesses to his cellmate, who is really an undercover detective. Ha ha ha! The police know, or believe at least, that it's going to be difficult to get a confession from Pedro, so they plant Detective Gonzalez in Pedro's cell. Speaking of the time he spent with Pedro, Detective Gonzalez says, quote, "For 27 days, I hardly slept, afraid I'd be strangled in my bed. I kept a towel wrapped around my throat, but I tricked Lopez into confessing by pretending I was a rapist too. He boasted to me of murder after murder in Ecuador, Colombia, and Peru. Fun to say, haha. It was beyond my wildest nightmares. He told me everything. You know, even though Detective Gonzalez is not the demographic for Lopez, I'd have been freaked out too. Yikes. So as he leads the police captain and other cops to many different graves, the captain informs him that he's going to be charged with murder. I mean, it's reasonable, right? Right away, Pedro clams up and all of a sudden says he's innocent. After confessing to over 100... It's a little late for that one, buddy. Dummy. In the end, he's only charged with 3 murders and sentenced to 16 years in prison in 1988, of which he only serves 14 years. 16 years is the maximum sentence, and he serves 14 in prison in Ecuador for the murder of 110 girls. There is so much wrong with that picture. In total, 350 murders have been linked to him. He once said, quote, "I lost my innocence at age of 8, so I decided to do the same to as many girls as I could." In his confession to the Ecuadorian police, noted in the documentation, is a quote from Lopez, "The moment of death is exciting and exciting. Someday, when I am released, I will feel that moment again. I'll be happy to kill again. It is my mission." Nuts. Asked about the ridiculous maximum sentence in Ecuador of 16 years, the prisons minister Pablo Figuero says, "Yes, it does sound strange, but that is our law. The law of no executions or sentences longer than 20 years was passed over 100 years ago to protect presidents of Ecuador from being killed following revolutions and military coups. In the past, they had been executed in horrific ways, like being pulled apart by 4 horses. The law seemed humane." Newsflash, numbnuts, it's not. Moments after being released from prison in 1994, he is arrested for illegal immigration and deported to Colombia, where he confesses to murdering another 200+ young girls. With little evidence on him, they set him free and send him to the town he lived in with his mother. A local woman identifies him as the man who murdered her daughter. He is then tried for that murder and found guilty. Thank God. His defense attorneys convinced the judge that he should be sent for a psychiatric evaluation, where he is then deemed insane and committed to a mental hospital. 4 years later, he is re-evaluated and deemed sane, imagine that, and released on a $50 bail with the understanding that he will continue psychiatric treatment and check in with authorities. Yeah, because that's going to happen. Surprise, surprise, he doesn't do either. For obvious reasons, his release causes mass hysteria in Ecuador. His mother says he eventually visits her and demands his inheritance since he can't make ends meet. She gives him what little she has and never hears or sees him ever again. In 2002, a murder victim shows up with the same MO as his previous victims. Subsequently, Colombian authorities launch an investigation, this time with Interpol, with an arrest order issued for him, and he's never been found. There are rumors of him living in various cities in Colombia, but otherwise he's a ghost. If still alive, he's like 73, 74 years old. Some believe he was murdered long ago, since various victims' families have put bounties on his head. There have been no confirmations, though, of a successful assassination or even any attempts. In his jailhouse interview, he said, quote, "I am the man of the century. No one will ever forget me." Unfortunately, Pedro, that's true. What a scumbag. That's all for this episode of Serial Killers. If you enjoyed this video, please take a quick second to like it and subscribe to my channel, All Things True Crime. The subscribe button is right below the video, and then ding the bell. That way you won't miss my next video. I upload every Tuesday. On the next episode of Serial Killers, we're going to learn all about Daniel Camargo Barbosa, known as the Sadist of El Charquito. This will be another remake due to poor audio quality. I covered him in my 3rd video, but due to audio problems in that video, I need to remake it and make it even better. Ha 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 ha. This scumbag is believed to have raped and murdered 180 young girls in Colombia and Ecuador between 1974 and 1986. Fun fact, and disturbing fact, he and Pedro Lopez crossed paths in prison. He's one twisted dude. Catch his story next week, right here on All Things True Crime. Until next time, stay safe.